Tupac's sister just inherited 100 million, and the way she's living right now is absolutely insane. We're talking a lifestyle so far removed from what people expected that when the details came out, the entire culture went quiet. Nobody was prepared for how she's actually living. And once you hear the full picture, you'll understand exactly why everybody's talking. Let's start with who Sekyiwa actually is, because a lot of people have been sleeping on her story for years. Sekyiwa Shakur is Tupac's younger half-sister, born into one of the most politically charged and culturally significant families in modern American history. Their mother, Sekyiwa Shakur, was a former Black Panther Party member whose activism and legal battles became the foundation of the entire Shakur family identity. While Tupac became one of the most electrifying rap artists the world has ever seen, his sister moved through life with far more distance from the spotlight, staying close to the family, close to the mission, and close to the legal work that would eventually determine what happened to everything her brother left behind. Most people outside dedicated Tupac fan circles barely knew her name until recently, which is exactly why the headlines hit as hard as they did. To understand why that $100 million figure is real, you have to understand what Tupac actually built, because the scale of it still catches people off guard nearly 30 years later. Tupac Shakur was killed in Las Vegas on September 13, 1996, at just 25 years old. In his short career, he released 5 studio albums, appeared in major films, and wrote poetry that would later be studied academically. But here's what makes his story financially extraordinary. Death didn't slow his output. Posthumous releases started almost immediately through Death Row Records, Interscope, and later his estate through Amaru Entertainment, continuing to push out albums and archival recordings that sold millions of copies worldwide. His catalog has been streamed billions of times across every major platform. His hologram appearance at Coachella in 2012 broke the internet before that was even a phrase people used. Add up nearly 30 years of royalties, licensing deals, streaming revenue, film rights, publishing rights, and merchandise, and you're looking at a catalog that has generated hundreds of millions of dollars in total economic activity, which is exactly the foundation that makes a 9-figure estate valuation entirely plausible. That inheritance traces back to a real legal story. When Sekyiwa Shakur passed away in 2016, she left behind a carefully structured estate that included direct interest in Tupac's music catalog, publishing rights that generate income every time his songs are licensed for film, television, or commercial use, master recording royalties that pay out every time a Tupac track streams anywhere in the world, image and likeness rights controlling how his name and face get used commercially, and a growing portfolio of memorabilia and archival material. Sekyiwa inherited a stake in all of that. Not necessarily a single lump sum wire transfer, but a living, breathing financial portfolio tied to one of the most commercially powerful catalogs in the history of recorded music. One that generates millions in income every year and has been appreciating for nearly 3 decades, with no signs of slowing down. Part of how that $100 million figure came into public view was through litigation. Sekyiwa filed a lawsuit against a man named Tom Wally, the trustee responsible for managing portions of Sekyiwa's estate after her death. The suit centered on concerns about how assets connected to her mother's affairs were being handled. Sekyiwa alleged that significant sums tied to estate assets had been improperly managed, and that she hadn't been given adequate transparency or accountability around those finances. That lawsuit is what pulled back the curtain on just how much the estate had actually grown to be worth, putting a concrete number to what had otherwise been a fairly private, ongoing financial operation. Tupac's earning power in death genuinely defies the normal logic of how music careers work. Most artists see their commercial relevance fade within a few years of going quiet. Tupac has been gone for nearly 3 decades and remains one of the most streamed hip-hop artists on the planet. Songs like Dear Mama, California Love, and Changes keep accumulating hundreds of millions of streams every year. Vinyl reissues keep selling. Every anniversary of his death generates a fresh wave of media coverage and renewed streaming activity. And new documentaries keep introducing him to generations of fans who weren't even alive when he was. That kind of staying power is extraordinarily rare, and it's exactly what makes an estate of this size make sense on paper. So, what does Sekyiwa's actual day-to-day life look like now that this kind of generational wealth is fully in her hands? This is the part that genuinely surprises people, because she isn't doing what a lot of people would do with money like this. There's no reality TV deal, no constant tabloid coverage, no designer-heavy Instagram feed performing wealth for public consumption. What she's built instead is a life of real comfort and deliberate intention. She's based in Atlanta, a city that's become a central hub for Black wealth and Black entrepreneurship, and she carries herself like someone operating at a serious level without needing the world to watch. Her time is organized around stewardship rather than celebrity. She's actively involved in overseeing Tupac's estate assets, engaged in the foundation work her mother started, and quietly positioned as one of the most important decision-makers connected to a legacy worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The insane part isn't a flashy lifestyle plastered across gossip blogs. It's that she's sitting at the table where real decisions get made about one of the most valuable cultural estates on the planet, living well and moving smart almost entirely outside the public eye. One of the most meaningful ways she's stayed connected to her brother's legacy is through the Tupac Shakur Foundation. Originally established by Afeni with the goal of giving young people, especially in underserved communities, real access to the arts. The foundation runs programs in music production, creative writing, performance, and visual arts, giving kids who'd otherwise have zero access to professional-level creative resources a real shot at developing genuine skills. These aren't token programs. They're structured, ongoing initiatives, and the financial weight of Tupac's estate has helped sustain and grow them for years. Sekyiwa has been intentional about making sure the foundation reflects the full scope of who Tupac actually was. Not just the rap icon, but the poet, the activist, the young man who grew up with nothing and turned that into one of the most powerful artistic voices of his generation. That's the version of the legacy she's committed to protecting, and the foundation is the clearest expression of how she's using this inheritance to do exactly that. What separates Tupac's cultural footprint from almost any other rapper of his generation is how far it expanded beyond music itself. His poetry ended up in academic curricula. His political commentary gets taken seriously by scholars studying social justice movements. His film work in Juice, Poetic Justice, and Above the Rim established him as a legitimate acting talent. His image shows up in murals and public art from South Central Los Angeles to townships in South Africa. That level of cultural penetration across decades and borders is what separates his estate from a typical entertainment business. It's not just about selling records, it's about maintaining an actual cultural institution. And managing that comes with real complexity. Publishing rights, master recordings, image licensing, brand partnerships, memorabilia, documentary rights, all of it requires active, ongoing decision-making about what to license, what to protect, and what to decline, which is exactly the kind of high-stakes territory that produces legal disputes among family members and trustees when people disagree. The streaming era has only made that catalog more valuable over time, not less. Every new listener who discovers Me Against the World through a playlist or algorithm generates the exact same royalty income as someone who discovered it 20 years ago. Anniversary releases, tribute albums, and documentaries create recurring waves of renewed attention that spike streaming numbers every few years. As hip-hop's global footprint keeps expanding, classic-era artists like Tupac are finding entirely new audiences overseas, which for an estate like his means genuine ongoing income growth, not just sentimental relevance. At the end of the day, what Sekyiwa Shakur represents is bigger than a headline number. It's what happens when a legacy this large outlives the person who built it, and who gets to decide how that legacy is presented, licensed, protected, and passed down. She has a real substantial stake in one of the most important catalogs in hip-hop history, and she's chosen to manage that stake through legal accountability, foundation work, and a private life that refuses to turn her brother into nothing but a brand. Tupac's been gone since 1996, and he's still one of the most talked-about artists on the planet. His music's still finding new listeners every single day. That $100 million isn't just a number attached to a viral headline, it's the real, ongoing value of a legacy his family is still actively working to protect. What do you think about how Tupac's legacy has been managed all these years? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the real stories behind hip-hop's biggest names, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications.